We are live. Welcome to a live stream, to the Reigns of Castamere live stream. We're here to talk about the events of my video and delve a bit more into House Rain. Come and join. Because originally I was wondering whether the new video should be, a history of House Rain, but there's not that much going on with House Rain before the revolt, so I thought I would make a whole video about the Rain Tarbeck revolt. I thought that'd be way more interesting. But we can delve a little bit into the history of House Rain, and then we'll talk a bit more about the revolt in depth, the causes of it, and also some stuff that I didn't include. Some semi-canon stuff. Of course, George R. R. Martin wrote an unabridged version of Westerland's chapter for The World of Ice and Fire. In the final version, it was edited down. There are some things in the unabridged version which I didn't include in a video. Some of it I did, some of it I didn't, so we'll go through that as well. You gotta love my consistency with the whole Late Lord Haven. Definitely a bit, yeah. I'm deliberately waiting a minute or two before I started to live stream. I'm definitely not just being late. Definitely not. I'm early as hell. Okay. How are we all doing? We got... Oh, cool. About 30 people watching. That's nice. Currently working. Yeah, that's fine. I love it when people are at work and they're listening to this stuff. It's awesome. Watching Fancy Haven's stream is the best way to deal with your hangover. I can't think of a better way than listening to my amazing voice while I talk about nerdy stuff. Okay, so thank you for the likes. If you haven't liked the video, give it a like, that helps. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Once the video's over, throwing in a comment helps. Just going through all the generic shilling stuff, of course. What else is there to say? If you haven't watched the Rain Tarbeck video, check that out. What did I call it? Reigns of Castamere, that's it. Check out the Reigns of Castamere video. I assume if you're here, you've already seen it, right? Of course. And throughout this stream, while I talk about House Rain, I will be checking the chat, but I will give priority and I'll be answering questions from Super Chats that help support the channel. Because as I always say, this is my job, this is my career. And as always, I'll plug my Patreon. I have a Patreon. Discord access, we have a fun little Discord. We played some games last week, it was quite fun. And we have exclusive House Dane videos, and there's early access and polls and all sorts of stuff. Okay, I've got past all that stuff now. All the boring stuff, let's jump into it. Now, even that stuff's kind of fun to talk about. So, House Rain. As we can see here, the sigil, red line on white, which I think is a really awesome colour scheme, personally. Oh, also, let me know about my audio. Let me know if my audio is fine. It should be, but I always like the colour scheme. And I did some research, and it is in fact the inverse colour scheme of... what was his name? Simon de Montfort. Am I pronouncing that right? Simon de Montfort, but it would be like de Montfort, right? His coat of arms was a white lion on red. And he sort of came to power, sort of kicking out Henry III. So there's a bit of a parallel there in terms of this powerful figure rising up against their liege lord, their liege. I won't delve too much into the historical parallels in this stream, though. So, House Rain. Early on, we know that House Rain were a great power. Back in the day. I don't think they were ever kings, but they did style themselves as the Lords of Castamere, which, of course, is built on top of and within gold and silver mines. So they really are like a mirror to the Lannisters. Right, they're lions, and they also gained their power and wealth from the mines. And maybe I didn't clarify this enough in my video. No, I think I did. House Rain is like the second most powerful house behind the Lannisters. They have the power and the wealth to back up their threats, And so what happened is there were a bunch of Lannister kings called the Kings of the Rock back in the day, the Kings of Casterly Rock. And I would love to do a video about the history of House Lannister, of course. And there was Lorien the First, I believe, married a member of House Rain, a daughter of House Rain, and brought them into the fold, brought them into the Kingdom of the Rock through marriage diplomacy, very classic, you know. And then we don't hear that much about the Rains. Every now and then there's like a Rain Knight that does one thing or another. But we know that during the Dance of the Dragons, of course, and this is no spoiler, I'm not getting into Hot D spoilers, but we know the Lannisters support Aegon and the Greens because Tywin Lannister is on the council and Lord Jason Lannister supports Aegon. And kind of has, in the show, he kind of has beef with Rhaenyra, because Rhaenyra rejected him. And, of course, the Reyns are vassals of the Lannisters, so an unnamed Lord Rain takes part in the Dance of the Dragons. And a little, again, this isn't a spoiler, we just know that this fellow, I can't remember his name, should have got his name, but he has been cast as a character called Sir Martin Rain. And this isn't a spoiler because Sir Martin Rain doesn't exist in the books, so I don't know who he is. It could be that he's just taking the place of Lord Rain in the unnamed Lord Rain in Fire and Blood. But it's cool that they're sort of bringing a Rain to the screen for the first time. And I believe he's the guy on the right here. Let me look up this guy's name, actually, because he's going to be Playwick. That is the most, like, cartoonishly British-sounding name, isn't it? Holy shit. Barney Fishwick. That sounds like a Game of Thrones character in itself. Anyway. So, no idea what role he'll play, but that's kind of fun. I like that. So, we also know, moving on from the timeline, we have to look at the Blackfire rebellions. And I believe House Rain actually supported the Blackfires in the first Blackfire Rebellion. So this is this was the picture of Sir Robb Rain, the only other character I think called Robb, other than Robb Stark, Robb Rain, and I clicked on it because I wanted to credit it, and it said it was generated by Elio Garcia, of course, being one of the co-creators of Westeros.org, being one of the co-authors of The World of Ice and Fire, works with George, with Linda, right? Elio and Linda, that's the duo. And I'm guessing this is AI then. I'm guessing Elio must have made some AI-generated characters and this one was added to the wiki page. And yeah, so Robb Rain fought on behalf of Daemon the First, and he's considered one of the finest knights of his age. So if we ever get a Blackfire Rebellion TV series, you know, maybe years in the future, is still called House of the Dragon, and we cover Aegon IV's corrupt, decadent, farcical court, his death, Daeron II, Blackfire Rebellion. We'll get to see Sir Robb Rain, another Rain. Okay, but let's start talking about the video. Let's start talking about how House Rain plays into the 3rd century, because everything before, you know, like I said, every now and then there's a lord or a knight who's mentioned. There wasn't enough for me to make a full-blown House Rain video, but this is really where it kicks in. The Rain Tarbeck Revolt. I considered naming my video the Rain Tarbeck Revolt, but I don't think that catches you enough. First off, Rain Tarbeck Revolt sounds terrible. The Rain Revolt sounds good, right? Because George loves alliteration, I love it too. Rain Tarbeck Revolt is kind of, you know, it's a bit of a mouthful. So I went with a more dramatic title, which was The Reigns of Castamere. What was it? How Tywin Lannister Secured the West. Yeah, I thought a little subtitle would be fun. Okay, before we dive into it, let me check the chat. How are we all doing? We got some views. Nice. The Rains, hello Key, great patron of mine. The Rains are your favourite Westerlands house. They are cool. I really like the colour scheme. I really like the red line on white is just a really cool imagery. Oh, Carl Snark, hello. How are you doing? Okay, so we've got some people listening to this stream at work. So Luke X listening to it while dealing with his hangover. We have Flippy Dippy Doo, the one and only. Baking. Nothing like baking and listening to a stream about a fictional mass murderer. What are you baking, Flippy? Let me know. Vicary. Yes, House Vicary or Vicary, which I talk about in my Every Westerland's House Explained in Crusader Kings 3 video. It's the one I posted a couple videos ago. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And I do talk about House Vicary, and it is canon. It is mentioned. And the sigil is a quartered coat of arms. In the top left and the bottom right, it's a boar. In the top right, bottom left, it's basically a red line on... Oh no, a white line on red. It's the inverse. And then there's a bend sinister over the whole thing. So that means a line going from the bottom left to top right, which implies bastardry. So it implies House Vicary are Rain Craighool bastards. You know, a legitimised Rain Craighool bastards house, very minor and inconsequential. But in the CK3 Game of Thrones mod, they've made it so that if you play as House Vicary and you get to the top, you can restore House Rain in all its glory. Which is a really cool idea. I didn't mention House Vicary in my video. Maybe I should have. There wasn't. Yeah, I think I just forgot, honestly. Cool. Thank you for the super chat from Key. Telling me to have a great afternoon. You have a great afternoon as well. I am good. I was very excited. It's been like a week since I've done a live stream because there was no time to do a live stream. Like, I love doing this, I love interacting with you, but I was like, no, I can't do this right now. I need to focus and get this video done in 1 week. Because you probably know this, animating's very hard. Even very simplistic animation on DaVinci Resolve that I do, you know, moving things from A to B, it takes a lot of effort. I'm not humble bragging here. It sounds like it. I'm just saying it takes a lot of effort. There's a lot of time and energy goes into these videos, and I wish I could pump them out every single week. That would be so cool, but I can't really do that. I'd love to, but I can't. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to see how long I can go with weekly content without burning myself out. Oh, lots of people in the chat. I'm trying to catch up with everything. Yeah, I'm just quickly looking at some stuff in the chat before we'll carry on with talking about the rains. Okay. So like I said, any comments that stick out to me, I will respond to, but I'll mostly prioritize super chats because that's how we get the channel growing. So Agor Bittersteel, interesting comment. Love my videos, thank you very much. Especially the animated lore. Do one about the Blackfire Rebellion. I absolutely will do a series on the Blackfire Rebellions, but they will be quite long and complex. So my plan is basically talk about shorter, simpler things at about 10 minutes, get to the point where my channel is big enough where I can afford to take like a couple weeks or a month off, working on a big 20-minute to half-hour video that's like the Blackfire Rebellions. Because I don't want to rush out a Blackfire Rebellion video. I want that to be the best. And the stuff I'm currently doing isn't rushed. It's also great, but it's smaller scale stuff. How's the video doing? The video is doing great. It's actually it's my best performing video that I've ever uploaded so far, in terms of how many views it's had in a certain time frame. Okay, let's keep going. There we go. So, it was quite fun animating Maekar being crushed by a giant boulder. I almost didn't include it, but I was like, you know what? I think I've got to. So, even before Tywin is born, the seeds are planted for this revolt with the ambitious Ellen Rain. And you know, I did a poll yesterday saying who's the most responsible for the Blackfire Rebellion. Who did I have? I had Roger Rain, Waldron Tarbeck, Tytos and Tywin. 4% voted for Waldron. Who cares about Waldron Tarbeck? Who saw that and was like, you know what? Waldron Tarbeck is more responsible than anyone else. He's like, okay. But people were saying, why isn't Ellen here? And I was like, well, I didn't have room to fit her, so I have a new poll with her included. But she's shown to be a very ambitious and headstrong woman indeed. She wants to marry all of the Lannisters. She wants to be the Lady of Castle Rock. First up, she's married to Tyward. Well, that's a sensible match. Powerful family marrying into a powerful family. But then Tyward is slain during the Peak Uprising, an uprising that we know very little about, right? All of the sort of the rebellions and uprisings that characterize the sort of late Targaryen era, the kind of decaying Targaryen era, where their power is waning, the fact they don't have dragons anymore weighs down on their regime. And so we have things like Blackfire rebellions, but we also have the Peak Uprising, and we have what was it? The Hawk, the Rat, and the Pig, the Rebellion of the Hawk, the Rat. Very like what even is it? We don't even know what that is yet. So I am. Some people aren't. I'm excited for Fire and Blood Part 2 because I want to dive into those kind of things. But what we do know is at the storming of Starpike, which heralded the climax of the Peak Uprising, Maekar Targaryen was crushed by a rock or a boulder that was thrown from the walls of Starpike, and Roger Rayne was slain, and Tyward Lannister was killed with a spear or a lance, and he died in the arms of his twin brother Theon. The Lannisters and the Targaryens seem to be the two houses that constantly produce twins. Genetics is weird in A Song of Ice and Fire, but at the very least there's some consistency in Targaryens produce twins, Lannisters produce twins. Because I know fancy authors love their twins, but there's, at least it sticks to certain families. Like, okay, there's a genetic, component here. So this is something I didn't include in my video. So this is part of the semi-canon source from the unabridged version of World of Ice and Fire, where with his dying breath, Tyward allegedly, according to Theon Lannister, Tyward tells him, it's okay for you to marry Ellen. Look after Ellen, take care of her, marry her. Maybe Theon is telling the truth. Maybe he lied because the Reynosi was just too good and he wanted to convince his father Gerald. By the way, Gerald let him marry Ellen Reyne, even though Gerald Lannister is somewhat... he's disturbed. He's like, hold on, you're pouncing on my next son immediately. It's clear that you want the power and the influence that comes with this position. And in fact, we can move on to this picture. A screenshot from my video where we have Ellen Reyne and Jane Marbrand glaring at each other. We have a super chat from Flippy Dippy Doo. I missed that. Sorry, Flipster. Just an HC. HC? What do you mean by HC? Just an HC, but given their sigil and name of their castle, Castamere, I imagine they're originally a branch... headcanon, yeah. I imagine they're originally a branch of House Casterly before the Lannisters took over. Yes, I thought about that too. The fact that Castamere sounds similar to Casterly Rock, House Casterly. You can imagine, House Casterly established Castamere or a cadet branch. This big House Casterly, they're ruling over the different mines throughout the Westerlands. And then the Lannisters, through trickery, overthrew them, kept the sigil. And then, I didn't consider that. I didn't think about the sigil side of it. I thought Castamere sounded a lot like Casterly Rock, and I imagined it linked to the Casterlys. But yeah, the Lannister sigil is taken from the Casterlys, right? And so having a lion and they could be descended from the Casterlys. That's a really cool point. I like that. The Reynes had Valyrian steel, but they lost it. That is actually a very good point, and in the future I am planning on doing a Valyrian steel video. In fact, that was the one I wanted to do this week, but I wasn't able to, because I looked at all the Valyrian steel weapons, all the characters that hold them, and I would have had to do a lot of art. Like 2 whole pages, and I was like, this might end up being a long video, so we'll have to work up to it. But yes, so House Drum, I'm really getting off topic, but that's why you come to these live streams. I jump around all over the place. House Drum in the Iron Islands, they wield a Valyrian steel sword called Red Rain. And Lord Dunstan Drum, I believe his name is, he steps forward, he puts himself forward to be the King of the Iron Islands during the King's Moot, and he wields Red Rain, and this red Valyrian steel blade. But you might think, well, why do Ironborn have Valyrian steel? Well, it's because it was stolen from them. Apparently they stole it from a Westerlands lord or a Westerlands knight generations ago, and so people theorise Red Rain used to belong to the Reigns of Castamere, and that does make sense. Rain, House Rain, Red Line. So it's a cool theory. And in my Valyrian Steel video in the future, I will bring that up. Okay, what else are people saying? Okay. Ellen Rain's like a light version of Cersei. Yes, Ellen Rain is another sort of headstrong, ambitious, intelligent female character that has a rivalry with a similarly headstrong female character. There's definitely sort of because George likes to kind of repeat certain tropes within his world. There is a sort of Rhaenyra Alicent dimension to this, or a Cersei versus any woman that she comes across. Every woman she's insecure about because they're, I don't know, Marjorie, Sansa, whoever. But yeah, in fact, I'll go into their rivalry now. So Ellen Rain, yes, she's ambitious, and she marries Tion. Or Tion, I say Tion because there's no Y, but I go with Tion. And she uses her influence at the Rock to host tournaments and balls. And she invites mummers and musicians and artists, and she just has a fun time living the extravagant lifestyle. You know, she's like a wealthy socialite, right? And I've lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? Oh yes, and she also uses her position to build up the wealth and power of her own family. So it shows that she's not this purely selfish woman. She wants it all for herself. She gives titles and offices and gold to her siblings, to Roger and Reynard Rain. Again with the alliteration. I'm surprised Ellen Rain wasn't called like Rainella Rain or something just to complete the set. But a rivalry is sparked between her and Jane Marbrand, who is the wife of Tytos Lannister and the mother of Tywin. And the issue with this is that the rivalry, it's not explicitly stated why it happens, and it doesn't go anywhere. It's kind of like, it kind of wasted potential. Because we know George is a gardener, and when he gardens and the story grows, he comes up with lots of cool ideas. But when he's coming up with a set story, and he puts notes together, it's cool, but it's not as good as if he had started writing it from scratch and let it build organically. Because I think if he were writing this sort of, you know, Rain Tarbeck revolt storyline from scratch, these characters would have a lot more to do. But Jane Marbrand doesn't really do anything. We just know that there's a rivalry there, and then they have the War of the Wombs, where they're giving birth to children. Not much of a war, but in the sense that Ellen is, you know, Jane produces more children, so she's like, look, I'm a better lady of Castle Rock. I'm serving my purpose in this medieval society better than you. But then Ellen is like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to name my children after I'll name them in a way that will emotionally harm Gerald Lannister. I will insult him. I will name them. So she has two daughters. One is called Rohan Lannister, which is apparently named after Rohan Webber, Gerald's dead wife. Now, Rohan Webber is a relatively minor lady, the head of House Webber, and she is in the second Dunk and Egg novella, The Sworn Sword. So we may see live-action Rohan Webber with the Hedge Knight, with the Dunk and Egg show coming out, at least the second season, I imagine. So yeah, Rohan Webber, the short, feisty redhead that Dunk has a crush on, is Tywin's grandmother, which lots of people don't know. or don't realise, but that's quite fun. But yeah. So, oh yes, and then there's Sorel, that's it. She names her other daughter Cyrell Tarbeck, who is named after Sorel Lannister. So Gerald's brother was a lord, and he mysteriously died. And then he only had one daughter, and that daughter became the Lady of Castle Rock. I think she was a child. And then she very abruptly and mysteriously died as well. And then Gerald became the Lord. And apparently Lord Gerald Lannister, the Golden, he's a learned man, he's a smart man, he's amiable, he's gentle. But it's suspected that he may have killed his brother and or his niece. You know, smothered her with a pillow so that he could be the Lord, kind of deal. And so because of that, it's sort of, okay, I'm going to name one of my daughters after your dead wife, I'm going to name one of them after your dead niece, who people suspect you murdered, and I'm going to name my son after Tion. Now, you could argue naming her son Tion isn't necessarily a jab aimed at Gerald Lannister, but could just be a loving reference to her one of her two late husbands, you know. But yeah, this, beyond the War of the Wombs, the rivalry doesn't really go anywhere because Jane Marbrand dies shortly after giving birth to Geryon Lannister. And it's a bit disappointing. Like, it doesn't play out as dramatically or interestingly as it could have. George does his classic, I don't know what to do with a female character, so I'll kill them off in childbirth. And of course Tywin needs a mother who dies young, which could explain... Oh, that was an annoying sound, very sorry for dropping that. Need to stop fiddling. But yeah, that could easily explain Tywin's personality. Beyond, and we'll get into that later, but beyond being ashamed of his father and his experiences during the War of the Nine Penny Kings, maybe having a mother who died early hardened him somewhat. But I'd say to look at this rivalry and read deeper into it beyond just it's a bit of a wasted idea. To actually to read deeper into it, you could say that, okay, why did it spark? Well, because Jane Marbrand herself wanted to be the Lady of Castle Rock. And then when Tion died, and Ellen Raine was allowed to stay at Castle Rock because of the Widow's Law, Jane Marbrand was like, okay, now I'm going to suck all that influence and power and give it to myself, right? I saw you traipsing about, inviting mummers and so on, now I'm in charge. And guess what? My husband is an absolute wimp. My husband Tytos is an absolute wimp, so I get to have more power than even you. And, yeah. Oh, hello, Quinn. Quinn has joined the chat. Hello. Quinn feels a sudden urge to support Photopea. Me too. I don't know what it is about it, but I just love Photopea. And the crazy thing is that you can remove ads for only $15 a month. No, I'm not sponsored by Photopea, obviously. They wouldn't support me, I imagine, because I'm literally trying to block their ads with my ad blocker. So they're probably pissed off at me more than anything. But where did we get up to? Okay, so Ellen, that's it. Ellen Raine tries to seduce Tytos Lannister. I hope you enjoyed my animation of Ellen Raine low-key twerking on Tytos. But we're told that Tytos was too intimidated to perform. Now, does that mean that he felt ashamed and he was like, no, I can't do this, and he left? Or could it be that he was genuinely scared of Ellen, that she was so forceful and domineering and headstrong that he's a bit of a wimp, he just wimped out? Could it be that, unable to perform, he literally couldn't get it up? As I say in my video, jokingly, but could it be he genuinely was like, I can't get it up because you're too scary? And then he ran to his wife who was like, I almost slept with someone else, I'm so sorry. And of course, Jane Marbrand was very pleased with this because it means that she had an excuse to go to Lord Gerald, and then get Ellen Raine kicked out of Castle Rock and married away. Because, of course, the Widow's Law said that Ellen allowed Ellen to stay. Widow's Law passed by Queen Alysanne. Widow cannot be thrown out of a castle after her husband died, but if she's married off to someone else, there's no problem. And so she's given the classic horrible fate for young women in the world of Westeros, being married to some like gross middle-aged dude. So she's married off to Waldron Tarbeck, who is a twice widowed, red-faced man. And actually, before we go on to that, because I want to talk about how, before we go on to the dynamic between Ellen and Waldron, I want to talk about another semi-canon thing, something that appeared in the unabridged version of that Westerlands chapter I've talked about, which is that, so it wasn't in the final version, but apparently when Theon died, Ellen claimed to be pregnant. But then as the months passed, her belly remained flat, and they were like, okay, you're not pregnant, you do not have Theon's heir in your belly. The question is, what was her plan here? What was her plan, genuinely? To stay she's pregnant, okay, that lets her, she's allowed to stay anyway. She gets to keep her influence, because everyone's like, oh, you have Theon's heir in your... But then, when it's obvious she's not pregnant, they're just going to be like, okay, cool, you lied, Was her plan to get pregnant? Was her plan to basically... Was she like crossing her fingers and being like, maybe I'm pregnant, I don't know? Or was her plan to, damn, I'm going to go fuck some bards and hope that one of them gets me pregnant in time so I can pretend it's Theon? Hey, look at this suspiciously not blonde child. Yeah, he's the new heir to the Rock. I guess I'm in charge now. Yeah, but it could be that maybe George removed it from the final version because he was like, okay, it doesn't quite make sense for this clearly intelligent character to just be like, I'm pregnant. Yeah, I'm pregnant with the heir. I'm not really, but I'm just gonna say I'm just gonna pretend until people realise I'm not. Maybe she was just gonna stuff a pillow in her dress and cross her arms and hope for the best. She's gonna give birth to like a bucket with a face on it and pretend it was a... Yeah, this is the new Lord of Castle Rock, everyone. Hope everyone... Alright. What are people saying in the chat? Ooh. Ellen might foreshadow Cersei's fate in the future book. Definite parallels there. Another interesting thing. Because her fate is literally being crushed when Tywin destroys Tarbeck Hall, and it collapsed on her and her teenage son. When I was animating that bit, and I added a fun green screen thing of debris falling and sound effects, and I thought, this is giving me Season 8 PTSD flashbacks. This is reminding me of Jaime and Cersei being crushed. For a second I thought, could that be it? Everyone was mad at D&D. Maybe it's George's plan. Maybe George wants Jaime and Cersei to be crushed by the Red Keep collapsing on them, and it's foreshadowed with Ellen Rain and her son being crushed. Right? Cersei, and maybe she gets pregnant like she did in the show. Cersei and her son, and or Jaime. They get crushed under falling debris. The fate that Tywin gave to his rival delivered onto his children. But then I remembered that apparently, I can't remember where I heard this from, but apparently the original plan for their death was going to be a fireball. It was going to be when Drogon blasts the Red Keep with fire in that episode, the flames were going to engulf Jaime and Cersei, but then they changed it to debris so that Tyrion could find the body. So that doesn't quite fit into that, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's foreshadowing Cersei's fate. Maybe the Red Keep will crumble. No, but then that would require something collapsing on her. Maybe when young Griff sacks King's Landing? Perhaps? When Jon Gon sacks King's Landing? I don't know. Okay, what else are people saying? Someone said they love the video. Well, I love you, and I love your videos. Even if you don't, you might not have videos, but I love them anyway. Yeah, Duncan Egg... Carl Karsnark is saying Duncan Egg Show could be a fun guest star cameo show. That is true, where you're like, you have a character who's going to be in 1 or 2 episodes, and you get like a heavy hitter to play them. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want a Westeros show to be filled with celebrities. You know, what I quite like about Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is mostly hiring unknown English theatre actors who haven't done much TV, people with gravitas, but who you don't recognise. Because you don't necessarily want to be like, hey, it's that famous person. But that's just me. Tywin has turbo mummy issues. Oh, he does. Oh, I didn't even... Oh, yeah. I was talking about Jane Marbrand and whether she has an effect on... We don't know whether she had much of an effect on Tywin. I completely forgot about the incident where Tytos kept a candlestick maker's daughter as his mistress, and she started wearing Jane Marbrand's old clothes and jewellery, and Tywin despised it. And when Tytos died, he had her stripped and whipped through the streets. Yeah, maybe I think he does have mummy issues, actually. Exactly, yeah. Imagine if Ed Sheeran appeared in Tales of Duncan Egg. Okay, no questions from anyone. Remember, send in super chats if you want me to specifically answer any questions, or you just want to send me a rude comment, call me gay or something. Go right ahead. Or change the discussion, derail the entire stream. The power is in your hands. Right, I've completely lost track. Where were we? Yes. So, Ellen Rain marries Waldron Tarbeck, and they have some children. And initially, as you can see by the screenshot, I presented it as kind of, she's a vulnerable young woman. She's been kicked out, and she's married to some lecherous middle-aged dude who's already twice widowed. But the tables do turn, because, you know, those children are named specifically, as I said, to insult Gerald Lannister, and there's no way Waldron isn't aware of that. There's no way he just thinks they're random names. He might, if he's letting that happen, then she clearly has influence over him. Or maybe he's a bit dumb, I don't know. But also the fact that House Tarbeck side with House Rain during the rebellion, I think it's more than just an alliance they have because he's married to their sister. I think it's Ellen Rain, and maybe I should have pushed this more in the video, but it's Ellen Rain influencing things, right? It's Ellen Rain being like, yeah, my brothers are willing to rise up against Tywin, we should do it too, think how powerful we should be. I always imagine Ellen being the power behind House Tarbeck at this point. And it's even, as I said before, when Tytos was being exploited by Lord Roger Rain, the Red Lion of Castamere, he gave some of that gold to his sister, who then, she's the one who helped to rebuild Tarbeck Hall, right? She's the power behind House Tarbeck at this point. They would, honestly, it feels like that house was just used so that House Rain felt like they had some legitimate backing and extra men, so that their revolt wasn't like a complete shot in the dark. Not shot in the dark, I don't know, you know what I mean. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, well, this was the picture I was going to use. Sorel, Rohan, and Tion, as I've said. And I didn't go through all of Jane Marbrand and Tytos Lannister's children, because, again, I literally made this video in like 5 days, right? Very intense. I was like, I don't have time to draw unnecessary stuff. But for those who don't know, the other children of Tytos and Jane Marbrand, obviously the eldest is Tywin, then there's Kevan, without question one of the worst names George has ever come up with for one of his medieval fantasy characters. Kevin, really? Anyway, then there's Jenna Lannister, who we saw as a kid in this video, who got married off to Emma Frey, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Then there was Tygest Lannister, who's also in the video. Actually, I just realised I made all of them apart from Geryon. Yeah, Tygest was a sort of the badass swordsman. He was a squire during the War of Ninepenny Kings. You know, he was a soldier, and he didn't like Tywin. They had a bitter rivalry because Tygest apparently he felt like he lived in Tywin's shadow, right? Like Tywin was a bit. He was like the angsty younger sibling. He was like, "Fuck you, I don't like you." Was he the black sheep of the family? Or was that Jerry Lannister? I think Tygest was like the black sheep, or the black lion of the family. Black Lion. Oh, that would be a great name, actually. Tygest Black Lion. But yeah, he had a, he is the father of Tyrek. and then he died of a pox, so he must have slept around. But yeah, he's the father of Tyrek Lannister himself, and I can't wait for all the humorous comments in the chat that are going to spark up now that I've said the word Tyrek. What else? And then there was Tyrion. Oh, and Tyget apparently was nice to Tyrion. He was like a friendly uncle. He was compassionate, as was Jerion. So unlike Tyget, who was like the gruff, grumpy, or Jerion was like the jokester. He was the funny one. He was Tyrion's crazy, funny uncle who wears the shades and lets him drink beer at the barbecue. Jerion opens his mouth at the dinner table, and like he's either going to say something really funny or he's going to say something racist, and you don't know, and you're just on the edge of your seat being like, And Jerion ended up going missing because he went searching for the ancestral speaking of Valyrian steel, the ancestral Valyrian steel sword of House Lannister, Bright Raw, and he went missing. And there are some theories that Jerion Lannister is the Shrouded Lord, the sort of quasi-mystical leader of the Stone Men in Old Valyria, and George R. R. Martin said that he wrote a Tyrion chapter that went in a direction he didn't like, and so he scrapped it. And some people have theorised that when Tyrion sails through that bit of Old Valyria, that there was going to be a bit where he encounters his uncle and discovers that his uncle is the Shrouded Lord, but I don't know. Maybe that was seen as a bit too much, you know. Yeah. Okay. What else? Okay, yeah, let's pop on to the next bit. What's the next picture I have? Oh, I have this. So, of course, after Theon dies during the 4th Blackfire Rebellion, the Battle of Wendwater Bridge, I believe, Tytos becomes the heir, and then Gerald Lannister dies of a bad bladder. A classic unceremonious death for a powerful figure. And Tytos takes over, and he is known as the Laughing Lion, but he's also known as the Toothless Lion. He is exploited and mocked, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. You know, he was third in line. He probably wasn't expecting to rule. Maybe he wasn't groomed to rule properly. Maybe he's just of a somewhat meek, amiable constitution. You know, he's just not someone who likes conflict. He will not stand up for himself. He will not rule as a strict feudal lord must, really. He is far too weak, and so people at court would openly mock him, and it was a game people at court would call pulling the lion's tail. They would yank the lion's tail and see if they could get away with it. But they could get away with anything, because he'd be like, oh, nice joke. He treated everything as like a roast competition. He was like, yeah. The roast of Tytos. I see you. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Talk about how fat I am now. Yeah. You know, the kind of insecure pretending that he's enjoying it kind of thing. And of course, people borrowed money from him and they never paid him back, and he never did anything. The only thing he did was occasionally forgive people's debts. What else? Oh, and sometimes his vassals would openly defy him, and he would just laugh it off. Oh no, it's fine. And he wanted people to love him. He clearly strikes me as an insecure person. He wanted people to love him, so he would give them gold, and he would give them land and offices. I mean, Tytos Lannister established House Clegane. So Tytos was, in his older years, he was attacked by a lioness. Or a shadow cat? I think it was a lioness. And his kennel master, who presumably was a bloke called Clegane, defended him, set 3 dogs on the lion and chased it away. And Tytos rewarded him by giving him a knighthood and a keep, making him a landed knight. Which is a bit of a over-the-top reward, right? Like, saved his life, yeah, give him some money, maybe. Give him land. Like, yeah, that shows you the kind of person Tytos is. Or was, I guess. And because of that, people despised him. Right? He wasn't popular. People mocked him and they despised him. They didn't like that he was a weak ruler. They didn't like that he was so obsessed with people loving him that he gave out gifts so frequently, that he didn't stand up for himself. Because, of course, if your liege lord doesn't stand up for himself, you know he's not going to stand up for you. And so at that point, it becomes every man for himself. And all the bannermen were like, we're just going to be our own powerful bannermen, doing what we want, borrowing money. We're not going to. And here we have a fun little cameo. Who in the chat can tell me who this character is? Who this strange young man is? Who can recognise the cameo in my video? Thank you, Carl. Carl is being really nice and he's telling everyone to like and subscribe. Just to clarify, I've not told him to do that. He's not my mod. He's just doing that because he's just a legend. So thank you very much. John Rooster. It's not John Rooster. Who recognises the blue cock? Yep. Key got it. Harris Swift. Sir Harris Swift himself. The one and only. The blue cock of Westeros. Could I do that? Could I do a video called The Blue Cock of Westeros, or would I get demonetized? I'm genuinely not sure. Anyway, Harris Swift is a weak, chinless sycophant. A lickspittle of the greatest proportions. And even he got away with stealing money from Tytos and not paying it back. So it really shows you what kind of person we're dealing with. And Harris Swift is the one who said the famous phrase after the Rains were exterminated. He said, "The lion has awoken," in reference to Tywin. But yeah, Tytos is something of a tragic character. He's sort of like the show version of this. He's like a caricature of the show version of Viserys times 100, or times 1,000, really. But yeah, it really shows you that Tywin was influenced by his experiences. He despised having a weak father, and he despised the Lannister name being dragged through the dirt. And he grew to despise laughter itself. Like, Tywin doesn't laugh. And he hadn't laughed since his wife died, apparently. But he doesn't trust it. Because he associates laughter with his father being mocked. His people laughing at his father, so he's just grim and silent and stern and serious. And what else has influenced Tywin? Well, clearly something's going on with his mother, I think. And he also served in the War of the Ninepenny Kings. So his experiences there may have hardened him, for sure. As he was in his late teens, I think. So that must have hardened him. And then when he returned and he saw what his father was doing, that's when he started acting. Actually, before we go on to that, I skipped over the whole Frey thing. So the Frey thing is quite fun. I do remember when I first read Game of Thrones, and I looked through the appendix, because I love going through the appendix for some reason, and I looked at all the countless Frey children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren, and I thought, wait, hold on, why is Walder Frey's second son married to a Lannister? Excuse me. Why is he married to a Lannister? That makes no sense, right? That makes no sense. Well, now we know. There's a reason for everything. I don't know whether George planned that in ahead or whatever, but why would a kind of, I guess, a somewhat pathetic house from the Riverlands? I mean, they're bannermen, and they can yield a larger army than House Tully, but they're still considered, they're sort of treated as a bit pathetic by the narrative, by the world. Why would they marry? Why would the daughter of the Lord Paramount of the Westerlands be married off to the second, not even the heir, the second son of Walder Frey? It's because Tytos acquiesced to him. Tytos gave in for whatever reason. Walder Frey was like, because you can imagine Walder Frey sort of strolling into Castle Rock wearing like a pinstripe business suit, just being like, let's get down to business. My son's going to marry your daughter. Set the date. When are we doing it? And Tytos was like, huh? Yeah. Sure, huh? Yeah, okay. And so Tywin hated that marriage. He protested it. And his protestations, probably very embarrassing for Tytos, is what led to Tywin being sent off to as a ward to King's Landing, where he befriended Prince Aerys and so on. And Roger Rayne was furious because, of course, from Roger Rayne's perspective, hold on, my sister could have been Lady of Castle Rock, right? Tytos, you could marry your daughters to some of my children or whatever. You're marrying your daughter to House Frey? Fuck you. And meanwhile, Ellen Rayne's response was to laugh because she thought it was funny. She was like, yeah, this is just, at this point, it's just funny. Poor Tytos. Walden makes his kids watch Sigma grind set videos. He is the ultimate grinder, though. He's the ultimate. If you've seen me ranking the phrase with Quinn, our live streams on each other's channel where we rank all the phrase, or not all the phrase, the important ones. A lot of them are grinders. A lot of them. Walder Frey has kids married to Lannisters. He's got a kid who's a Septon and is a member of the Most Devout. He's got kids training to be maesters, probably trying to be the Grand Maester. He's got his son Emmon is now the Lord of Riverrun. He's a grinder. I get distracted by the chat. You guys are too funny. You make me laugh too much. Okay. And oh yeah, so I'll quickly say for those who don't know, you will doubtless discover this in the upcoming Every Frey Explained, which at this point is like the episode 9 piss take from Glidus. It's the immortal video that was promised and is nowhere in sight. That's my one. Anyway, so Jaina Lannister does marry Emmon Frey, and they end up having 4 children. Cleos. Oh, I'm genuinely trying to remember. Cleos, Tion. Cleos, Tion, Walder. One of them is called Red Walder because he's an Lannister, or maybe he's a redhead. Cleos, Walder. I can't remember the other one. But yes, so Tywin returns and pisses off the Reynes and Tarbecks. So we have a reason for House Rayne to hate the Lannisters. We have a reason for Ellen Rayne to hate the Lannisters and to influence her husband, Waldron Tarbeck. See, this shot should really have Ellen in the back whispering into his ear. Yeah. But we need a reason for Tywin to hate them as well. And so what we have is the fake out, where you think the revolt might start, but it doesn't. Tywin comes back, and he says, okay, listen, everyone. You've borrowed, all you bannermen, you've borrowed money from my father. Pay back your debts now. I'm the heir. I am telling you, pay back your debt. I've come back from the Stepstones. I'm hardened by war. I've learned a bunch of skills. My younger brother, Kevin, built up an army of 500 veteran soldiers or something. Men-at-arms. Do as we say. And, of course, a lot of the bannermen were like, lol, no. And he said, if you can't pay back the debts, that's fine. You'll be send a hostage. And we'll keep that hostage until you find a way to pay it back. Roger Rayne laughed. Roger Rayne was like, huh, okay, cool. So the angsty, edgy teenage son of the weak fat lord is telling me, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm good. And he told all his allies and friends to not do it. So it's not just he didn't pay back. He was going around the second most powerful man in the Westerlands, the second largest and most powerful house, telling everyone, don't bother, don't listen. Which must have pissed off Tywin to no end. And then Waldron Tarbeck outright says, this is outrageous, and rides to Castle Rock. Now, I don't know if this was of his own accord, whether Ellen Rayne convinced him to do it, but he rode to Castle Rock to be like, hey, Tytos, get your son in check. But Tywin got his men to apprehend him and throw him in prison. Tytos was not happy about this, and he got a letter from Ellen Rayne, who... Oh, you know what's just popped into my head? Oh, interesting. Okay, so I just had an idea. So Ellen Rayne, as we know from my video, said, listen up, Tywin. I've captured 3 Lannisters. 2 Lannisters of Lannisport, and I've also captured, who was it? Yes, Stafford Lannister, who's Tywin's cousin, brother of his betrothed Joanna Lannister, because they love keeping in the family, right? I have 3 Lannisters, and I will kill them if you don't bring me my husband back nice and safe. And so Tywin was like, oh, you have 3 Lannisters, do you? I have an idea. What if I cut your husband up into 3 pieces and send them to you? How would you like that? But Tytos isn't that kind of man. So Tytos was like, nope, Tywin, we're not doing that. And he released Waldron. He was like, I'm so sorry for what my son has done. Not only am I sorry, House Tarbeck, you don't have to pay back your debts. You are forgiven, right? Let's come on, roast me. Say something fun about my beard. Come on, we're pals, we're buddies, right? That's basically what happened. But what I just realised was maybe Ellen Rain was being more calculating. Maybe it was more than just a, aggressive, brutal medieval negotiation. Maybe it was, I know, if I send my husband to go to Castle Rock, and Tywin apprehends him, and then I tell Tywin, I've captured 3 Lannisters, I'll kill them, and then Tywin kills Waldron. Maybe Ellen was betting on a revolt happening then. Maybe she thought, if my husband is killed, A, that means that my 70-year-old husband is now dead, which makes life nicer for me, because I don't want that. I don't want that going near me anymore. I'm fed up. But it also means her son is in charge, her teenage son, which basically would make her the regent. Her son was probably old enough, actually, but she'd still have lots of power. So maybe it was a way to kill off her husband and prematurely start the revolt. And then be like, okay, guys, I'm justified here. They killed my father. Come on, brothers and House Rain. Come and join me. Tywin would have been unprepared for that, because he wasn't prepared for a revolt. He was just, But that doesn't happen. A year later that happens, where Tywin does prepare. In fact, he prepares for a revolt because he actively tries to cause one. He's like, okay, House Rain, powerful, wealthy, you defied me, you're a threat. I'm going to wipe you out, and anyone who joins you. So I'm going to say that Roger Rain and Waldron Tarbeck must ride to Castle Rock. And this was a year later, or just under a year later. You must ride to Castle Rock to face punishment. He's basically saying, oi, you, come to Castle Rock so I can have you executed. Well, of course, are you kidding me? No, I'm not going to get my head chopped off just because I didn't listen to the son of the Lord. Now, if you're the Lord, that's a different thing. But you're the son of the Lord. The Lord didn't tell me to pay back my debts. I'm going to keep borrowing from him. In fact, the Lord forgave my debts in the case of Lord Waldron. So they're like, you know what? Screw this. Screw this. The toothless lion is toothless. He's pathetic. He's weak. And his edgy, upstart Zuma son, who's getting all aggressive, saying, oh, we'll face punishment. Screw them. Let's rise up against them and take over. Now, could that have worked? That would be an interesting what if, actually. Some people have asked me whether I want to do what if videos. What if this person died? What if this happened? And I could make short animated videos. I'd love to do that. That'd be so much fun. Like, what if Robb Stark did this? Wouldn't it be a fun one of what if the Rain Tarbeck revolt succeeded? That could be really cool. But what would have happened? I'm assuming House Rain would have become... Roger Rain would have named himself, as the larger and wealthier house, he would have named himself Lord Paramount. He would have been like, I am now the Lord Paramount, I'm in charge. Presumably, it could be that he planned to just specifically take out Tywin and Tytos and then get like a puppet in get Kevin in charge as a puppet or something. So that the vassals the bannermen could all continue living as like mini kings in the Westerlands, like it's, England under King Stephen I. Or he wanted to put himself in power, in which case you might say, well, how would he get away with that? Because the king at the time was Aegon, right? Aegon V? But that's the whole point. Aegon V struggled. In that late Targaryen era, they all struggled to keep control of the Iron Throne because they didn't have dragons. Their power waned, their influence waned. House Lannister got overthrown by House Rain. Well, what are you going to do about it, Targaryens? You haven't got dragons, right? What's to stop Roger Rain from overthrowing him and saying, hey, Aegon, the Lannisters were weak and the Westlands were basically collapsing because no one was doing as they were told. I'm now in charge. I'm swearing fealty to you. You're my king. I support you as my king. I'm going to maintain control here. What are you going to do about it? And it's possibly he could have taken Castle Rock, or he may have ruled from Castamere, with Lord Tarbeck taking Castle Rock so that Ellen Rain can finally be Lady of Castle Rock. By the way, I see House Rain wanting to be the number one family in Westeros, and the Tarbecks probably securing the spot as the number two family. Basically, by being the cheerleaders to House Rain, they'd probably they'd rise up from this small, crumbling, declining house into like a really powerful one. Let me have a drink. But it was not meant to be, unfortunately. Unfortunately for them, at least. They rose up, but Tywin expected them to rise up. He anticipated them rising up, and he was prepared, and he immediately marched on them. He started off by marching on Tarbeck Hall. Let me check the chat. How are you all doing? But yes, Tywin marched on Tarbeck Hall and caught them by surprise. Lord Waldron was not able to raise an army fast enough to fight Tywin, to turn against Tywin and meet him properly in the field with a fully fledged army. He just rose household knights, I think, and they were massacred. His son was killed in the battle. He was then executed. And it said, I haven't done my research, it said Waldron actually expected to be ransomed. So he was captured, his sons were captured by not Ellen's sons by a different wife, one or two. And he thought, okay, Tywin, you've caught me now. You've caught me, Tywin. What are you going to do? You're going to ransom me back? Let me guess, Ellen is going to show her support to you and be a vassal again, as whatever. Tywin's like, no, I'm just going to cut your head off. I was like, sorry? So can you say that bit again? He was like, yeah, I'm going to cut your head off. So Tywin executed the Tarbecks. Then marched on Tarbeck Hall and crushed it with siege engines. I don't know how we built siege engines so quickly, but he built them, trebuchets. Yeah, in like one day he built a trebuchet, like fuck you. And he crushed Tarbeck Hall, and it fell on Ellen and Tion. And then he wasn't done with that. He was like, okay, we're marching into the ruins and we're burning the debris. We're burning the remains. And then Sorrel and Rohan, let me get them up actually. Sorrel and Rohan were supposedly forced to join the Silent Sisters. So they weren't killed. They were just, okay, you're in the Silent Sisters, you're not allowed to speak, you cannot have children or marry, you have to deal with dead bodies, fuck you. Which is a nicer fate than Tion Tarbeck. Unless you believe the rumours that Tion Tarbeck fled to Essos and became a bard, which is quite similar to the mushrooms theory in Fire and Blood, that Lucerys survived Aemon's attack and he crawled out of the sea and became a simple-minded fisherman or something. Yeah, that's quite fun. But no, more likely he was exposed to everyone's favourite hitman, Amory Lorch. If you need a noble child that needs killing, find Amory Lorch. Amory Lorch is a bannerman, a landed knight of Tywin. He's responsible, allegedly, for throwing the last Lord Tarbeck, so the grandson of Ellen, so like 3 years old, throwing him down a well. He's also responsible, again, allegedly, for stabbing Princess Rhaenys Targaryen to death during the sack of King's Landing. He's really boring in the show. I don't know if you even remember him in the show. Let me get a picture up. But like, in the show, he's just the most generic, like, white dude with a beard. He's gruff and he's in armour. And he has no personality, and then Jaqen kills him. In the books, he's like he's got a lot more of a personality. He's this like chubby, small-eyed, pig-like man with a really thin, high-pitched voice, which is just kind of, and he's quite sadistic. And he gets a pretty fun death. He is, when Harrenhal is sort of cooed almost, taken over by the brave companions and Roose Bolton, he's stripped naked and thrown in a bear pit. There we go. Let's see if I can't post that by. Where are you? Whoa. There he is. Efficient. Look at that high quality picture I got for you there. Let's say relaunch in the show. Sometimes I even forget he's in the show. He basically exists to be one of the 3 people Arya kills, essentially. Or Arya asks Jaqen H'ghar to kill. In the books, it's Chiswick, the Mountain's Man, and Whis, and then the third option is Jaqen, and that's why Jaqen helps her. In the show, it's the Tickler and Amory Lorch. But also in the show, Amory Lorch is not responsible for the death of Rhaenys. They made it so that the Mountain killed Rhaenys as well as Aegon and Elia Martell, which just condenses it. I think it's smart for the show to do that, you know. It's not super necessary for it to be 2 different people. And honestly, the Oberyn Martell saying, "You raped her, you killed her." Wait, no, hold on. Yeah, you raped her, you murdered her, you killed her children. That sounds a lot cooler than you killed her son. You killed her children. There we go. And after wiping out the Tarbecks, and throwing the last one down a well, Tywin then marches on to Castamere. Actually, before he marches on to Castamere, he is caught. He's caught by surprise because House Rhaen hastily raise an army, like, oh shit, and then they march over to help the Tarbecks. You'd think they'd be a bit more prepared, you know, rejecting Tywin, but Tywin was prepared in advance. He was even more. He was even more a preparer, and so House Rhaen soldiers take Tywin by surprise. But he is experienced, remember, from the Ninepenny Kings War, and he has more men. And the Rhaen army is also exhausted because they march all the way to try and save the Tarbecks, and they arrive too late. And we know in history that an exhausted army is not the best army. Look at the Battle of Hastings, 1066. It was King Harold Godwinson. His army fights off the Vikings up north, march all the way south, and to face Robert of Normandy. Richard Normandy. Again, mixed up with Bobby B there. And they're just exhausted by the time they arrive at the battle. One of the factors that led to their defeat. So yeah, rest in peace. Rest in peace to Harold Godwinson. But most importantly, the Rhaen army is tired, exhausted. They're pushed back, the Rhaens flee, and Roger Rhaen is shot with an arrow, and he becomes feverish, and Sir Reynard Rhaen, his brother, takes over. And so I think this is to showcase another Rhaen. I think George wanted to put another one in to show that the family's larger. So Roger Rhaen is sort of the headstrong one. He's the whole, let's have a revolt, let's quickly raise up the army, save the Tarbecks. Whereas Reynard Rhaen, Reynard Rhaen is like William. Oh my God, yes, William of Normandy. Jesus, not Richard of Normandy, not Jesus of Normandy either. Yeah, what, you haven't heard of Richard the Conqueror? It's not like I have a master's degree in history or anything. Oh wait, I do. Yeah, William the Bastard. That's very embarrassing. God, I said Robert and then I corrected myself with Richard. Robert was the name of William the Conqueror's father. Richard was the name of William the Conqueror's grandson, so I'm not sure what that's about. No, great-grandson. No, great-great-grandson. Oh, you know what? I give up. You can find that out on History Haven. No, there isn't a History Haven, but maybe there should be. I'd just be stuffed with mistakes like that. Where was I? Oh, yes. So, Roger is the headstrong one. Reynard is the sort of cautious, cunning one. So he's like, okay, my brother's now feverish from the wound. Hold on. We're back at Castamere. We have mines. Let's take everyone into the mines. Let's seal ourselves up. Then we can negotiate. Because Tywin's not going to storm the mines. He's not going to send his army in to, like... Because it's too narrow. It's too awkward. You know, they're easier to defend than to attack. And so instead he decides to... Oh, yes, and then Reynard sends out some negotiations. sends out a cheeky little something, saying, listen, okay, you've got a bigger army, you're outside our castle, we're sealed in here, you can't really get us, how about this whole thing blows over, we will be your vassals again, we're not rising up anymore. In return, though, because we don't trust you, send 1 or 2 of your brothers to keep us hostages. Obviously Tywin was like, no, fuck that. And so he infamously barricades all the mine entrances with rocks and earth and soil, and then diverts the nearest stream to the nearest entrance and just gradually floods it. And the mines are all... surely that would take ages, but the mines are all flooded, and 300 people are killed. It's not just House Rain, it's all the servants and everyone, maids, and everyone who lived in the castle of Castamere. They are all wiped out in one big act of brutality. Because Tywin is a sane person. Tywin is a very normal person. Yes, William Rufus died in a hunting accident, yeah. A hunting accident. Someone said they would watch History Haven. I mean, that was the OG. That was the original channel idea. I made 3 History Haven videos, and then I scrapped them and I made Fancy Haven instead. And the whole animated history videos is a bit of an oversaturated market, but I could maybe if Fancy Haven kicks off to the point where I have some time to step back and work on a second channel, maybe I could do History Haven. That could be fun. The same style, but talking about real life history. Would you guys like that? But yes, Tywin drowns House Rain. Now, was this a smart move? I want to hear your thoughts in the chat. Tywin deliberately provoking a rebellion and wiping out the second most powerful and second wealthiest family in the Westerlands, as well as their allies, the Tarbecks. Was that smart? Genociding 2 whole families. Because it showed him to be, the complete opposite of his father. It showed that he was brutal, powerful, that you don't mess with him. But at the same time, he hasn't got that balance. He's too much. He's too far at the other end of the spectrum. We have Tytos, who's just completely useless, and then we have Tywin, who is so brutal that why would anyone respect him or love him? They fear him, yes, but there's no loyalty there. It's loyalty purely out of fear. And it creates a reputation of, this is a man we cannot negotiate with. This is a man who is only brutal, which can have a bit of an issue, right? Especially, look at Robert's Rebellion. Do you think at any point... look at King Rob rising up. War of the Five Kings. Do you think King Rob ever wanted to negotiate with Tywin properly? Well, no, because Tywin has established a reputation of, I don't negotiate, I wipe you out. Stay in your seat or I'll wipe you out. There's lots to be said about Tywin being a silly bastard. I will say, I've said this many, many times. I do want to do a video about Tywin specifically. I want to do a video that's called some pretentious video essay title like Tywin Lannister dismantling the myth of the apolitical strongman kind of thing. I've talked about this before, but the idea that Tywin is this super genius and he's a hard man in a hard time, but he's hard because he needs to be hard, and he's a badass and he's cool, and say what you will, he makes the trains run on time. That kind of view that some people apply to like real world dictators. Like, well, say what you will about this dictator of this country, at least there's order over there, or some bullshit. But it's like, no, Tywin is very irrational. He's just as rational as anyone else in Westeros. If not, actually no, he's less rational. So there's this myth built up around him, partly thanks to the show, partly thanks to the fans, partly thanks to the propaganda in the books, which is deliberately propaganda, that he is, that he is this that he's something more than he is. What he is a brutal tyrant who's also like a good, competent administrator. But he's not like the perfect medieval ruler. Because he is cruel for the sake of being cruel. He's vindictive for the sake of being vindictive. And he's a hypocrite. Did I say apolitical? I didn't mean to say apolitical. Sorry, I said like strong man. The phrase apolitical strong man goes together a lot, so I think I instinctively just said apolitical strong man. But no, he's sort of, the highly competent strong man who's cruel, but he needs to be because that's the way life is. It's like, nah, he doesn't need to do this. He did this to satisfy his own ego. And it is evil. And it is deliberately portrayed that way. He is meant to be, a narcissistic man. And that's why he is given the death he's given. He's shot on the toilet. And his body stinks. And people are like gagging around it because he smells like shit. Like, that's the point. It's his legacy being the collapse of his family. And that's sort of embodied in the state of his... Well, it's embodied in his body. Sort of decaying and shitty, quite literally. Yeah, you could say like short term, it was a good brutal move, but it's just this revolt is just indicative of how Tywin deals with everything. Like Tyrion gets kidnapped by Catelyn, and his first instinct is burn the Riverlands, give him back because he has to maintain that sort of reputation. Otherwise he comes across as weak in his mind. Yeah, it says a lot when the Mad King appoints you as his hand because he thinks you did a good job. He's like, hey, I like that guy. Aerys does Duskendale and everyone says, oh, Aerys is fucking crazy, guys. And then Tywin does this shit and everyone's like, nah, he's cool though. He's a straight up savage. What? I'm sorry. Someone just commented, Tywin wouldn't last a day in modern times with all the smartphones. I don't know what that means, but that made me laugh. I'm just imagining him like confounded by people using smartphones. Yeah, I like that, Caden. Tywin's actions made him great, but destroyed his legacy. He did it for him. You can think of many dictators in the real world, in real history, and even present day, who do things basically for their own ego. They place their ego above the lives of the people that they claim to represent and rule over. Anyway, what was the next one? There we go. A little bit of Tywin there. What else did we want to discuss? What else did we want to chat about then? Oh yes, let's talk about the song itself. Let's talk about the Reigns of Castamere itself. Before we do, I'm going to close a window and have a bit more water. And as usual, I do a cheeky little super chat reminder. If you guys want to send in a super chat to support the channel, then please do. I will prioritise it and I will answer it. So if you have any questions or any suggestions or anything you want to raise, you can donate to the channel. Okay, I'll be back in like 5 seconds. That was more than 5 seconds, but they don't call me the late Lord Haven for nothing. No, I'm not going to sing the Reigns of Castamere. Not again. I will actually. If someone genuinely wants me to do it in a super chat, I will do it because I listen to my fans, This is where Andre comes in and like super chats me $100 again. He's like singing. I'm like, fuck. Okay. Yes, so the song, The Reigns of Castamere. As I say in the video, it is both propaganda to make Tywin look like he's got a big dick, and it's also at the same time a threat to disobedient vassals. So there is an example I found in my research where there was a Lord Farman of Faircastle who apparently was very aggressive, and it doesn't specify what exactly this lord said or did that was aggressive or whatever, just that there was some tension between him and Tywin, and he wanted to do a certain thing. So Tywin simply sent him some singers to sing the Rains of Castamere, and it made him reconsider his position, whatever that means. Again, we first hear about this song in the third book, and because George is a gardener, it kind of sounds like he came up with this idea while writing the third book, because we don't hear about the Rains of Castamere before. But Tom of Seven Streams sings it in the Brotherhood Without Banners, which is it sort of seeds it in for the reader. And then, of course, we hear it at the Red Wedding, where it's deliberately chosen as a cue for the phrase to begin massacring the Northmen and the Rivermen. And we know that the architect of the Red Wedding one of the architects was Lothar Frey, and I think in Merrit Frey's epilogue chapter, he specifically accuses Lothar of being the guy who came up with the song idea. There's sort of some sadism there with lame Lothar. He's the one who came up with the idea of the tents collapsing and setting them on fire. He came up with the Rains of Castamere being played because he thought it was sort of funny. I think Roose Bolton also joined in with that idea, but yeah, very haunting. And then it's also sung at Joffrey's wedding, and it's sung at Tommen's wedding, and Olenna Tyrell sort of quips about it both times, being like, oh good, let's have another Rains of Castamere song. Oh wait, no, it's not sung at Tommen's wedding, actually. I think the Blue Bard is singing a bunch of songs, and then Olenna quips, "Oh, he hasn't sung the Rains of Castamere yet. Why not?" Sort of taking the piss, because I imagine it's overplayed. In the Red Keep, under Lannister rule, Rains of Castamere is played every single day. It must be so boring. He's got a lot of Spotify hits. What else? Marillion sings it in his Sky Cell in the Eyrie after he's accused of murdering Lysa Arryn. He sort of, in his melancholic tone, he sort of sings Rains of Castamere. And Jaime uses it as a threat. Jaime uses it as a threat. So when he's sieging Riverrun and they have Edmure Tully hostage, he has a singer, actually Tom of Seven Strings, who I mentioned before, he has Tom sing it to Edmure Tully as a kind of, you know what we did to the Rains, you know what we could do to the Tullys. Using his father's legacy to get what he wants. And of course, the reason Tom is there is because he's probably a spy, still working with the Brotherhood, but that's you can find all that stuff in different videos. That's a whole other thing. Excuse me. Just having myself a drink. Right. Do you like this portrait, by the way? I put this through a fun little filter. I think it looks cool. This is young Tywin, so no mutton chops. Okay. Oh, a couple of super chats. Oh shit! I should have tempted fate. One from Boombler. Thank you, Boombler, for telling. All right, sing it. For telling me to sing Rains of Castamere. If I must. I shall indeed. And also thank you for the super chat from Caden, who didn't say anything. I don't know if Caden is backing up the audience's desire to see me sing, or whether you had a message that you forgot to put. Caden had nothing to say, you just want to support the channel. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. And who are you? The proud lord said that I must bow so low. Only a cat of a different coat, that's all the truth I know. A coat of gold, a coat of red, a lion still has claws. And mine are long and sharp, my lord, as long and sharp as yours. And so he spoke, and so he spoke, that lord of Castamere. And now the rain weeps o'er his halls, with no one there to hear. Yes, now the rain weeps o'er his halls, and not a soul to hear. I'll tell you what, that only took like 20 seconds. I'm sweating. I am fucking sweating after doing that. Oh, that was painful. I'll tell you what, I was trying not to laugh because I looked at the chat and people were just spamming the blush emoji. just watching the blush emoji fly up while I'm trying to sing. Yeah. See, the issue is I was holding back. That's the thing. You either don't do it at all, or you. God, that came out weird. Don't do it at all, or you belt it out. I was like holding back a little bit. I didn't want to be too loud. Didn't want to disturb the neighbor. But because I was holding back, it was a bit like. I need to go for it. Next stream, I'm gonna be. I'm so window shattering. Anyway, thank you. There we go. How's my viewers? Yeah, my views have gone down. Yeah, there's a shock. I don't. A few of the viewers were like, "I'm out. I'm a head out." Disrespectful. Okay. Do we have anything more to talk about? I'm happy to stay around for a little bit longer. It's only been an hour and a half. I'm happy to stay for a little bit longer. Send in your questions. Send in your theories. Send in your suggestions. I'm thinking, in fact, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let you guys know, you special few people, hardcore fans of the channel, watching this live stream, I'll let you guys know, special treat, what the next video will be about. Hopefully next Friday. The next video, next Friday. Oh, thank you for the super chat from Coleshot. I need one of the pictures with my character. Do you want me to put your character on Photopea? Yeah, I'll do that. So for those who don't know, oh wait, hold on. How do I? There we go. For those who don't know, Coleshot for a little time was. Wait, where is it? Where is the? Okay, let me find it. For a little time, Coleshot was my highest Patreon tier. He was at the highest tier. He went down a little bit. He kind of did like the initial big sponsor and then went down a little bit to a low rank, which is chill. But that when he was temporarily at that highest point, he got the highest tier available, which is I drew a character for him, so his sort of OC character with his own sigil, and I had it cameo in the Harrenhal video. That's what the highest tier gives you on my Patreon, as well as everything else. You get your own character drawn, and it cameos in the background of videos and stuff, which is pretty cool. There we go. I was talking a bit awkwardly there because I was trying to find the picture while talking. I'm not great at multitasking. There we go. There he is. This is Coleshot's character. Of course, he's no longer allowed to cameo in any videos because he's been a bad boy, but here he is. Pretty cool. He told me the colour scheme. He told me the face. He told me the sigil. I quite like the sigil. What was his name? I can't remember his name. Coleshot will remember. But yeah. We have some fun. What was I saying? I was going to say what the next... Oh, you had to reduce for time. Coleshot, I'm teasing you, right? Like, I'm teasing you. Send in as... If you're Patreon, whatever you want. It can be as high or low as you want. It's up to you. It's about your condition. Your current financial place, not condition. Your current position, that's the word. your financial position. Don't push yourself to pay more if you can't. If you can, that's great. Whatever. I don't want people spend money when they can't. Because you can support the channel in other ways. Liking, subscribing, sharing the videos, all that stuff. Oh shit, I've got the wrong one on. I've got the wrong character. Oh no, sorry. My bad. I went onto the wrong chat. I'm so sorry, Coldshot. I'm genuinely sorry. Yeah, no. My current Lord of Light patron, so my highest tier patron, he's still my patron. He's still my Lord of Light, and that's his guy. There he is. He is this. I completely got mixed up. I'm very sorry. This is him. This is Coldshot. This one was Coldshot. Based on a CK3 character he'd created. So he's got cool hair and beard, blue surcoat, bird flying over a castle. You'd think I'd know more about... Oh, I'm so sorry. It is over, yeah. It just goes to show I don't care about my patrons. All I care about is money. You guys send in money and I spend it all on takeaway and expensive suits, and I sit in my room in my suit and I laugh evilly. I flick through the money and I cackle. I dramatically pour a glass of milk and I look out the window. And I'm like, those suckers. Ha 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 ha. Nah, I'm just kidding. So I was talking about... It is a cool looking character, yeah. Oh, just to clarify, that's not the highest. The highest tier isn't I draw your character. That's a lower tier. I can draw you. I think it's Lord Paramount. I draw your character. It's the highest tier. Lord of Light is, as well as drawing your character, it appears in videos in the background. Boombler, no, come back. Okay, so I keep getting distracted by my patrons. They jump into the chat and they chat shit. They stir things up. They distract me with their nonsense. I'm like Cersei after season 5. Yeah, I'm like with my wine glass, but it's full of milk, and I'm looking out the window and I'm smirking as I watch people's wallets blow up in the background with wildfire. Nah. Trust me, all my money goes to rent and bills. This is my job. I'm building this up into a little business of mine. Everything is going towards me literally not getting kicked out of my flat. But hopefully once I've gone beyond that, where things are a bit more stable, I can start spending that money on new microphone, second monitor, that kind of stuff. So, I will finally get to what I was talking about. You guys must... Oh my god. The rambling, the subject changes, I love it. Come on, ADHD brain, focus. Where were we? Next video, I'll say it to you guys. It will be House Clegane. Or specifically the mountain. It will be... I'm thinking of calling it Sir Gregor Clegane and the Mountain's Men. So, specifically talking about House Clegane being founded, Sir Gregor and his band of psychopaths. And then the video after that will be about the Hound. And the video after that, I'll simply say the title. So the next one will be Gregor and the Mountain's Men. The video after that, 2 weeks' time hopefully, will be called The Three Hounds of Westeros. Because the Hound helmet makes its way through a few characters. Even Quinn got a good mic. You better step up the game. I have a better mic than Quinn. I'm sorry, this mic is better than Quinn's. It's not perfect. Come on. Shout out, you know I kept complaining that Quinn's 3,000 subscribers ahead of me. Now he's 4,000. That bastard. We need to take him down. How do we take him down? Does that actually cover it? What do you mean? Oh, it's in my rent and bills. No. Okay, so basically, what I get from ad revenue and what I get from Patreon covers rent and bills. I used to make more money from ad revenue earlier in the year because I had one viral video, which helped me a lot. But my video count has normalized a bit more, so now it's growing, but it's not constant 6-figure. If I posted a few times a month and they were all 6 figures, that's enough to get by, and everything else would be building the channel with new equipment. But right now, it's rough when you post a video does well, you post Harrenhal 2-parter, and they're both like, no one's watching them, and it's like, okay, I'm not making any money there, so you have to find new ways to. But this video's doing really well. Thank you. You guys are the best. You're the best fans ever. I promoted this one, and it did well. Is it still number 1? Let's see. Also, I worked harder on the thumbnail. I thought the thumbnail was quite good. But yes, so Gregor Clegane and the Mountain's Men. So that's Polliver, Dunson, Raff the Sweetling, Shitmouth, all that gang. And then after that, we'll be looking at the 3 men in Westeros who have worn the Hound helmet, which will be an exploration of Sandor's character, but it'll also be looking at Rorge and Lemoncloak, and what the myth of the Hound. The Hound is turning into this like mythological character. Yes, it's still number 1. 11k views. 11k views in the first 23 hours. Cool. In 20 minutes, it would have been in 20 minutes, it would have been an entire day since I posted the video. 11k in an entire day. Haven't done that well before. You guys are the best. Thank you so much, because I worked really hard on that one. And I was like, you know what? Oh, thank you for the super chat from Coleshot. What about throwing Quinn a nice party and then push him from his throne? I will overtake that bastard. I will overtake him. We need to do more live streams. Did you guys enjoy the Death Trap Dungeon one, where you got to vote on the different choices in the Choose Your Own Adventure book? I really like that. We need to go back for that. The Mountain's Men are the Suicide Squad of Westeros. That's kind of true. What are we, some kind of Mountain's Men? Very nice, Caden. Smoke a huge bowl during the Clegane vid. Nice. I will. I would take Quinn's microphone. Like the Hound's helmet. Nice one, Danny. And it will be mine. Because, of course, what happens in the books is when the Hound dies, or does he, the helmet is picked up by Rorge, the brave companion, and absolute psycho, who then commits various war crimes and crimes against humanity in general, and everyone thinks it's Sandor doing it. And then Rorge is killed and Lem takes the helmet. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens, what the journey of that helmet will become. Like, will Lem then start doing horrific shit, and then this myth of the Hound will permeate throughout history, just this like mass war criminal, this nutcase. Sort of, it separates the Hound from Sandor as like these two different aspects of his personality. It's really cool. It's really cool. There's so much going on in the books. No wonder Winds is taking so long. Like there's just so much. Bum bum bum. Okay. Right. So we've talked about the reigns of Castamere. We've talked about Papa Tywin. Any more questions? Any more questions? Any more questions? Any more suggestions? Any more super chats? Let me know for the next few minutes, and we can vibe for a bit. In terms of live streams, again, I want to do some more Death Trap Dungeon with you guys, stuff like that. Oh, hello, another super chat. A pink super chat from the Pink Letter Writes. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Oh, is the stream fine? Is the stream... Okay, the stream's good. Okay. Pink Letter Writes, a fan of the channel. I've seen you comment before. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Video about Ramsay and the... That is a lot. You've sent me quite a lot, actually. Thank you. That's really kind. Video about Ramsay and the Bastard Boys would be nice after... Ooh. Both about horrible people and their best buds. That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. So yeah, the Mountain has his Mountain's Men, who are his soldiers he commands, but Ramsay Bolton has the Bastard's Boys, who are again, basically a bunch of psychos and sadists who follow Ramsay around, most of whom are basically working for Roose Bolton as spies anyway. But it's like Damon Dance for Me, who has a whip, Skinner, who, as you can imagine, helps Ramsay skin people, Yellow Dick, don't know why he's called that. I don't really want to draw Yellow Dick, but I think I have to. Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, I definitely, House Bolton video is going to come, because lots of people have suggested House Bolton videos. People really like House Bolton, and see, the thing is, there are so many people who say, oh, do this house, do that house, but it's not enough to be a full video. It's not worth animating like a house that has 2 lines on the wiki page, you know. House Bolton, though, you can talk about the Red Kings, you can talk about what their place in history, you can talk about Roose and Ramsay. I don't know if I do a solo video about Ramsay and the Bastard Boys. I'd probably do a video on House Bolton, and then Ramsay and the Bastard Boys would be part of it. Because I think a video dedicated to... I could... maybe? Yeah, no, that'd probably just be one big video about House Bolton. Video on the Leech Lord. Yeah, it would be one big House Bolton. The history of House Bolton. The Red Kings of Westeros or something like that. Have I ever done read-along streams? No. I haven't. No, I'm not really a fan of that. Just because everyone does it. Like every A Song of Ice and Fire YouTuber. Not everyone, but a lot of them do. And I don't know if I have anything new to add to it. You know, reading through the Game of Thrones books again. Because obviously I can't just read them as like an audio thing, because they'd be taken down probably. And in terms of giving my analysis, I'm not a fan of that. I feel like other people do it better. You know, there are YouTubers out like AltShiftX has his unabridged. David Lightbringer does some read-alongs. I don't know. Anything new relating to CK3 houses? I mean, my next one will be sorry, I got lost in thought. It will be the Riverlands. My next CK3, every Riverland house explained. I'm doing everything I can to avoid doing the Reach, because that will destroy me. Thank you for the super chat from Coleshot, the one and only. I've said the name Coleshot way too many times this stream. He's loving it. Is Quinn's pronouncing... wait. Quinn pronouncing Aenys, is that a meme yet? Well, it should be a meme. He's not the first person to come up with it. I mean, many people have suspected that King Aenys, it's basically meant to be like Anus, King Anus. Of course, you don't pronounce it that way, but Quinn did. I pronounced House Whore as House Horror, so that I didn't get demonetized, and then Quinn jumps in and he's like, anyway, King Anus, god damn it. Quinn? Maybe the history of House Bolton and House Bolton in the main books. The thing is, I don't know if the history of House Bolton is enough to be its own video. I think, like the Manderley one, I'd need the history and then what they do in the books as one video to be like one satisfying 10-minute video. Whereas houses like, you know, there's a reason I'm doing Bannerman houses. I haven't done the history of House Lannister, the history of House Stark, the history of House Baratheon, because that would take ages. That's like when the channel's bigger, when I have more time. Either I can put it in parts, or I can have just like oversimplified style 30-minute videos, the history of House Stark. That would be awesome. I can't wait for that. Okay. Anything up? Excuse me. I've got hiccups. Excusez-moi. My Patreon Discord popping off. Oh, okay, people are talking about the fact that I was singing. God damn it. Okay, any more comments? Anything else? 10 minutes is too short for House Bolton Ramsay gang. Yes, actually. Yes, I was thinking, like my House Manderley video is like 13 minutes, because there's lots of Manderley history and then Manderley and Song of Ice and Fire. But House Bolton probably would be longer, yeah, because you'd have the whole when they were Red Kings, their rivalry with the Starks, what they've done throughout history, Roos's machinations, and Ramsay on top of that. Yeah, it'd probably be, yeah. Again, I could split it up. Although a video that's very specifically like the Bastard of Bolton and, you know, his boys, the Bastard's boys, Ramsay and the Bastard boy, that'd just be a dark video. That would just be dark. This would be depressing. To be fair, the Clegane one is going to be dark too. I hope I don't get I shouldn't do because it's cartoons, but the next video is basically going to be me describing war crimes. I'm going to be like, this is the Mountain. These are his friends. And this is why they should be in prison. Oh, in prison. That's an idea. I was trying to think what my new video should be, so I was looking through my Google Doc with all my ideas. And I'll tell you what, I've got one idea, which is assigning real life crimes to a Song of Ice and Fire characters. Like if they teleported to the modern day, what would happen to them? What would they be arrested for? So for example, murder, racketeering, fraud, bribery, whatever. Mance Rayder would be arrested for fraud because of the pink letter. Only one person has done a video dedicated to the maps of Westeros. You can't watch him, he talks way too fast. Maps of Westeros. What does that mean exactly? Just sort of going through the map and being like, check out each of these places. That's something I could do on CK3. Tywin speed running the death penalty. Yeah, Tywin would go to The Hague. Tywin wouldn't be like put in like a prison, in like a local county prison. Tywin would be tried at The Hague and hanged for war crimes. Tywin would be charged for genocide. I don't think he would. Actually, you could make a point that the Riverlands and the Westerlands are distinct enough that the Rivermen are their own ethnicity separate from the Westerlands, and Tywin waging a war on the people of the Riverlands in the way he is could constitute genocide. How do you... Okay, Jesus, this is going to... We're definitely demonetized now. We're getting into a dark topic. How do you define genocide? Is it defined by intent? Is the difference between mass murder and genocide the intent? You know, I'm not sure. Because, like, if you have a war and you kill a bunch of civilians, that's obviously mass murder, but that's not necessarily genocide if you're doing it because you're just being brutal and whatever. But if your intention is to wipe out a group of people, yeah, no, it's not genocide. But it would break various articles of the Geneva Convention. Tywin would be... to be fair, so would Robb Stark. Robb Stark medieval warfare would get you sent to The Hague. That would be such a fun video. Real life crimes applied to Cersei charged with tax evasion. Yeah, that's fun. Tywin would also be charged with the R word, wouldn't he? Because of what he did to Tyrion's wife. Tywin would be charged with a lot of stuff. That'd be a fun video, but that video would not be monetized, Jesus. What would Tyrion be charged with? I guess war crimes as well, right? Battle of Blackwater. Let's be honest, every single Song of Ice and Fire character would be charged with war crimes. Let's be perfectly honest. Like even Ned would be charged with murder. For beheading people. Obviously, this whole thing is it's all dumb anyway, because you could argue well, Ned is the head of state in his particular region, so he determines what the law is, and if he determines that the law for the punishment for desertion for the Night's Watch is execution, then he's enacting that. That's not illegal. In the same way, it's not illegal for a dictator to have someone imprisoned for, free speech when free speech is illegal in our country. It's still kind of bullshit, though. If we're going by, the standards of a modern Western democracy, we can say Ned Stark would be in prison for murder because he chopped off people's heads. I think the children are the only ones who wouldn't be put in prison. No, Arya would definitely be put into juvenile. Be chucked into juvie. Who else? I think Bran's safe, right? Bran's safe. Jaime is, murder? Attempted murder? Honestly, if I had a lawyer, if I knew, a proper professional lawyer, I'd be like, look, let's talk about this. Let me know. Bran for cannibalism. It was unknowing cannibalism, though. Bran doesn't do it. Bran isn't aware. When he's... when he walks somewhere, he is eating people, isn't he? Is cannibalism illegal? I don't actually know if that's illegal. Is it illegal to eat people? Or is it just an extreme social taboo? The kangaroo trials of Tyrion would be a crime. Yeah, you could argue that. You could say that Tywin's trial of Tyrion in itself is illegal because it's basically a complete kangaroo court. Bobby B for domestic violence. Yeah, battery. He hits Cersei and leaves a mark. And also the R word for Bobby B, let's be honest. Cersei could make that a case. Who else? Euron, that would be a fun trial. Euron's trial would be fun. Cersei murder. Cersei would be done in for murder. Sorry, I'm going a bit quiet here. I'm just reading the chat. People are having really interesting conversation. If you're watching this after it's live, I have live chat replay. Sometimes YouTube gets rid of it because they're annoying, but it's fun watching the discussion go down. Dany for king. Yeah, Dany for murder. She murders Mirri Mazda. But she's underage, so that's juvie for her. She does murder Resnack as well. Arson. Yeah, an arson. Littlefinger. Oh, that would be fun. Fagon for identity theft. That's good. Littlefinger. Would you even have treason as a crime for any of them? Because if we're saying that the heads of state who are acting within the laws set by... if the crown is setting laws and people are abiding by them, but that would be illegal in our world in modern day, then we can't say that treason counts. We can't say Littlefinger's committing treason against the state, which we are declaring to be illegal in its practices and laws. Jorah, yes, Jorah could go in prison for kissing Daenerys. But Littlefinger would get more than treason. Littlefinger would be embezzlement, murder, first-degree murder, several times. Lysa, Dontos Hollard, conspiracy to murder. He's an accomplice with Jon Arryn. Sansa, I think you're right, Flippy. I think Sansa, Rickon is safe because he's too young. Actually, Rickon's probably eaten some motherfuckers, let's be honest. In Skagos. Sansa, hasn't done anything illegal. Oh, identity theft. No, she hasn't stolen anyone's identity. She's just pretending to be someone else. Okay. See, this would be a really fun video idea, but it would also be really dark. Like, some of the ones would be really funny, and others would be like, you good, bro? Actually, considering we're talking about George R. R. Martin's literature, every single male adult character in the real world would be arrested for paedophilia. Let's be honest. Yeah, pretty much every single male. Benioff and Weiss for manslaughter. Benioff and Weiss for character assassination, maybe. Davos, yes. I assume you meant Davos and not David. Yes, Davos smuggling. Yeah. Salador Sand for piracy. You know what? This is now making me imagine the Song of Ice and Fire characters in the real world, full stop. Like, what would they do? Like, Salador Sand, I just imagined him hanging out with Somali pirates. Tywin would be like a CEO, wouldn't he? He'd be like a ruthless, psychopathic CEO of a major corporation. Or he'd be like a leader, he'd be like a president of somewhere. No real life political analogies allowed, by the way. Just because I mentioned the word president. You're not allowed. You're not allowed. Stannis is clean. Stannis. I mean, attempted murder. Oh no, full on murder. He's burned motherfuckers. Stannis has burnt people at the stake. That's a cruel and unusual punishment. Stannis is getting in trouble. Jon Arryn. I think Jon Arryn's safe. Wow, I think we found an adult male who's safe. Catelyn kidnapping. Oh yeah, Jon Arryn marries teenage Lysa. Damn it, no one ever. Can we find an adult male in Westeros who wouldn't be charged with a real life crime? This needs to be a stream in itself. I need a stream that's just a Song of Ice and Fire characters in the real world. What would Littlefinger be in the real world? He'd be a really like slimy politician or like a lobbyist. He'd be like starting wars in the Middle East for money. Jeor Mormont, yeah. Okay, Jeor, I think Jeor is safe. I think he's safe. Benjen, yeah. Okay. John Connington? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. How are we defining, like, what about war? You know? Like, just war in general. Is a character who starts a war, is that illegal by modern standards? In the sense that every Westerosi war viewed through our lens would be an illegal war. Littlefinger is an accountant. Littlefinger would be like the Chancellor of the Exchequer, or the Secretary of... What's the Chancellor called in America? Me and my British terms. Secretary of the Treasury, okay. Cersei would be the CEO of Twitter. No, I feel like Cersei would be like no, that is a good one. I can see Cersei as being like a... No, Cersei would be like a celebrity businesswoman. She'd be like a socialite. like Kim Kardashian. Although I do like the analogy that the Tyrells are the Kardashians. When people criticize the show where the set blows up, they're like, Cersei blew up the Pope and the Kardashians and got away with it. Like, that's the equivalence. Renly married 14-year-old Marge. He did. That is illegal. Wait, Loras is 15 and... Do we know when Renly and Loras start sleeping together? I thought Loras is 16 by the first book. Either way, that is sus. Renly is kind of sus. But no more sus than every other adult male in the books. Hodor? Yeah, Hodor is chill. Hodor's done nothing wrong. Sansa would do TikTok. Ariane Martel would have an OnlyFans, let's be honest. She'd be a millionaire from OnlyFans. No, she wouldn't need OnlyFans because she'd be a millionaire anyway. She'd be like the daughter of a Saudi prince or something. Ramsay Bolton. I can't think of any crimes Ramsay would get in trouble with. I think Ramsay would be safe. If Ramsay were in a modern trial, I think he'd be fine. He hasn't done anything that bad, has he? I'm trying to think of like the most obscure character or the weirdest character. Can I do a video about the gardeners? Yeah, I could. I definitely could. I might do. I would have a Twitter and be an edgelord. Or have you know the phrase is I would have an X, actually. This is too fun. That being said, I might wrap up now. But this is a really fun discussion. I don't know whether the people listening to this live stream after it's done are going to get much out of it, but I have just been watching the chat and vibing. Like, it's really fun watching people come up with what modern crimes A Song of Ice and Fire characters are guilty of. And all A Song of Ice and Fire character, that should be a stream, shouldn't it? A Song of Ice and Fire characters in the real world. See, President Tywin, or President Bobby, CEO Tywin. Jalapajou for conspiracy to overthrow the Summer Isles government. I love it. Okay, I am going to end the stream now because I need to have some dinner. So thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you haven't already. Genuinely helps me out and I'll love you forever. If you're interested, join my Patreon. We got Discord, we got exclusive videos, polls, I can do art for you, live streams, all kind of fun stuff. In the Discord, we had a fun little game of Gartic Phone last week on voice chat. That was fun. Boombler has a funny accent. Would Succession. Oh yeah, the Roy family. They're kind of like the Lannisters, aren't they? Anyway, I will wrap up. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great evening, afternoon, morning, depending on where you are in the world. Night, I don't know. See ya. Have fun. Yeah.